Well, good evening to you all. Thank you for joining. We'll start the presentation shortly. My name's Rob. I'm joined by my colleague Charlotte and Caroline from the International Office, and we have one of our very, very enthusiastic students with us as well. Nushka's going to share some experience with you on how she's found the UK when it comes to careers and employability, and any hints and tips that she may be able to share with you. So we're going to get started shortly, but thank you for all being on time and for joining us today. Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks again for joining today. My name's Rob. I work in the International Office at Loughborough University in the UK. We've got a couple of colleagues who join me from the International Office, and we've got a current student as well who's going to share some experience with you. So today we're going to focus on enhancing your employability, so looking at placements, looking at what you can be doing throughout your studies in the UK to make yourself more attractive to employers. It can be quite an investment to study in the UK, so obviously the hints and tips we're going to give you today will hopefully allow you to find that dream job when you have graduated. So without further ado, we're going to start the presentation. If you have any questions for us, please feel free to start noting them down. We will have an allocated Q&A session at the end, but if you have a pressing question, please do use the facility to contact us either through the chat box or the Q&A. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to really touch on today is the different career support that you can expect when you come to study in the UK. And we'll be giving examples of Loughborough University and how we help our students throughout the presentation. So the first thing is to kind of break down, really. We've got 5 sections here. We look at the different kind of skills that we could enhance that you already have, or perhaps skills that you would need to learn when you are looking at the employability. Now, that can be things like the different teamwork skills that you have, the different leadership skills that you have, your time management, your professionalism. So a lot of these skills that are actually taught within certain modules that we have throughout our undergraduate studies. So it's really, really useful when you are studying to actually be prepared for the world of work, because for a lot of students, they've never worked a day in their life. So of course, the skills that we would expect you to have, we know that you don't necessarily have until the end of your degree. So we have that syllabus that we are actually giving you the employability skills for. We also give you guidance. So you may be starting a degree, but you may not entirely know the different career path or even how to go about applying for those jobs. So we have dedicated and professional guidance counsellors who can really lead you to your desired career path, and we'll be able to keep in touch with you throughout the degree in terms of that guidance. Then we have placements. So when we say placements, we mean internships. So we have a large cohort of our students every year for undergraduate studies go out and spend around about 12 months doing an internship in either in the UK, or that can be overseas. It can be in your current country if you'd like it to be. But we have a number of students who get paid work experience throughout the degree, which adds an additional year to the syllabus. So we'll come on to that a little bit later on. And then obviously the main thing for a number of students is going to be the employability. So the actual finding a job at the end of the program, and we have different careers fairs and different activities to get involved in there. And we'll touch on that a little bit later on. The final slide is, the final section is perhaps an area that not a lot of students are completely aware of, first of all, and that's our Enterprise Hub, and that's the same throughout a number of UK universities. So Enterprise is looking at perhaps if you have a new idea, a new product, a new service, if you're actually wanting to start your own business in the future, even if you are an undergraduate student, we have a team that can help you within that. And there is also a graduate scheme that when you have finished the program, there is a pilot visa scheme that you can be sponsored by to actually remain in the UK and remain in the UK to launch your own business. So that's, again, it's quite a popular area that we're finding. Alongside this, there are many other activities you can get involved in, even in your spare time. So there are part-time jobs, there are activities where you can get involved in volunteering and coaching, and all of these things will make you, again, very attractive to employers. So just moving on, the next kind of section I was going to look at is what kind of career support you would expect from UK universities, and in particular at Loughborough University. So we have one-to-one support. So you will book a slot to meet with one of our advisors, and they'll be able to talk through, normally in about 40 minutes or an hour length appointments, where you are specifically discussing whether it's a part-time job or your CV or whatever it would be. You book an appointment for that. So we have dedicated time allocated to you. You have drop-in sessions. So if you just want to come in and have a quick chat with somebody, if they are available, we have that. So it's a little bit more casual. We have mock interviews. So a number of students, when they're going for their placement interviews or their full-time jobs or even part-time jobs, you may be required to attend an interview. So that can be a little bit scary initially, but we would run through examples of what an interview would look like, and perhaps things like what you should wear, questions you could ask, and how professional you would need to be in that environment. So that's quite a nice introduction to you. A lot of companies also have assessment days. So they may ask you to spend half a day or even a full day for an internship or for a full-time job in doing a series of assessments. So they may have problem solving, they may have teamwork, they may have activities that they're testing your aptitude, for example. So that's something else that we would prepare you for within the degree. As you can see, they're the mock assessment centres. So that's done with our support, but we actually get industry leaders in to actually give that experience, because they are doing this on a regular basis through their HR teams. The other thing to mention is that we have a series of guest lectures and talks throughout the year, and this will be the same across the UK. So that is giving you advice on how to write your CV. So a lot of students would perhaps be more from an American system sometimes, so a lot of Zs rather than Ss. So those are the kind of things that we help to iron out. We would advise students about the right format to include the CV, in which order, what's a priority, keeping it as concise as possible, how to apply, when to apply, and the application process, and different networking events as well. So these are guest speakers that would come in. You would have a chance to talk to them one-on-one. They would do different sections and sessions for you. So that's, again, a unique opportunity to learn more about how to become employable throughout your degree. Then the other resource that's quite widely used is our online support. So we have our own website, as many other universities will have, that's dedicated to careers. So they give you case studies on students who are working in their fields, either in the UK or elsewhere. They're giving advice about booking appointments. You can find social media and actual guidance to finding an internship, for example. So that's becoming a very, very popular route now, the internship, and we'll come on to that a little bit later on. So at this stage, I'm going to ask Nushka, as a current student, when you first joined the university, or when you came to study in the UK, first of all, were you aware of the support you were going to receive? And secondly, how was your experience of that support?
So when I first came, I didn't realise, I knew there was a career support team, but I didn't realise how extensive it was. And to be honest, in my first year, I really just didn't kind of focus on it. I was very much like just trying different things within the uni, which is fine. And then when it came to kind of second year and applying, I was like, oh, I feel a bit out of my depth here. So initially I made an appointment about looking for placements and kind of making my CV look better. So that was really good. I found it really helpful because you sent your CV off like 2 days before your appointment. So they already had a copy, they've already gone over everything. So when you actually go to your appointment, they just kind of run through what they think you could do better, things that you can add, formatting tips. So you're not kind of going there, giving them your CV, sitting there like, oh, waiting for you to have a look at it. So I find that really good. I also went back when I needed to get my CV reviewed. I did a mock assessment centre, which was really good because the placement I ended up getting, I needed to do a full day assessment centre from 9 to 5. So I kind of knew what to expect and knew how they were kind of structured. And I think if I hadn't done that before, it would have been a bit like, oh, why is it this long? Or what? I don't know what to expect. And then yeah, so I did the mock assessment centres, I did the career kind of CV advice, and then I also attended some talks as well. And I think it was PwC that came in, some employees from there. So it was really interesting because these are people who are recruiting and are recruiting your graduate and your internship roles. So yeah, it's really good to get industry advice as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Nushka. That's really good insight into what you can expect, and particularly from your experience as well. I think it's useful for other students to hear that. So that's lovely. Thank you. Just in terms of how we help, in particular, international students, as Nushka said, we have industry visits. We have former students who are actually working in industry come back and tell us a little bit about their experience, and sometimes they are now in a recruitment role for that company, taking Loughborough students back. We have, particularly when it comes to the visa and the advice side, there are different talks that we record, put on our website and invite you along to. Particularly when it comes to finding employment in the UK, it's a little bit complicated when it comes to a sponsored visa. Now there is a post-study work that we'll come on to a little bit later on, which makes it a lot easier for you to stay and work in the UK. But we provide this support when it comes to actually going about applying for and securing your visa. Another thing that we do for international students, and a lot of students don't perhaps know that this exists, it is that they would need to register for updates on various full-time, part-time and internship roles. And they are normally on a kind of a weekly basis emailed to students as a newsletter. So any new opportunities that come up close to Loughborough or across the UK, students are given that promotion via their registered accounts. So again, things like the graduate entrepreneurship route is something that we've mentioned before. We would provide support for usually about 20 students a year to stay in the UK and to continue with their enterprise or their entrepreneurial venture. So that's something that we can support. And finally, we have specialist events for master's students. So if you're looking to continue on and do a master's degree with us, or if you're looking to get involved in that field, because master's students only have 1 year of study rather than the UK's undergraduate studies, which is usually 3 or 4 years. Master's students have less time, so they need a bit more intensive support. So that's something we would offer to you if you are looking to do a master's degree as well. So in terms of the placement, and I'm going to ask Nushka to kind of talk a little bit more about her experience as well here. But just to mention, for most UK universities and for all of the courses at Loughborough University, we have this placement option. So a study abroad year or a placement option, or 6+6. So you can do 6 months of study abroad, 6 months of the placement year. The benefits really is that you get really the opportunity to get paid work. Most placements are paid, some are voluntary, but most of them are paid. And the average kind of salary we find students would get would be about £16,000 per year. From that salary, you would normally pay for your living expenses in that area. And usually when it comes to accommodation, the company offering the placement would give advice on where to live or where they would suggest that you would live. If it is in a local area, obviously you may be able to apply for Loughborough accommodation. Okay, so there is a lot of benefits in terms of you getting that valuable experience. You obviously having the advantage then to perhaps request a higher salary because of that experience. You're putting what you're learning potentially on the modules into practice, and perhaps you're learning whether this is a career you'd like to really go in. Because we're not saying that every single placement year would be exactly the same route as that students would want to do in the future. So that's quite a nice thing. I think, Nushka, if you're okay to perhaps talk a little bit about your placement year, I think the things that I think would be useful to mention is when you started to apply for your placement year, a little bit of your experience about the support you received, and also where you went, and a little bit of experience shared on that, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. So I began applying quite early because I kind of was like, quite conscious that there are a lot of placements. So I did actually sign up to the weekly emails that got sent about any opportunities. So there was initially quite a few, and I was like, oh my goodness. So I'd say a tip is definitely start early, because it doesn't hurt to start early. So yeah, I began applying maybe late November. Some even open in September, October, but bear in mind that changes every year. And yeah, so I looked at the Loughborough portal. It's like the careers online portal, and they had all the vacancies, and you could apply directly through there. But I also was looking at Rate My Placement, places like Target Job that you can just find online through a Google search. Because my degree is psychology, I kind of was focused towards recruitment and HR roles. So that's what I filtered it by. And I have to say, there were a lot of opportunities, and there were a lot of opportunities because initially I was quite conscious as an international student whether that would make a difference, but it really didn't, because it was part of my degree. So there's no restriction on the amount of hours you can work, which is stated on your visa, but that's for term time. So it's different when you do a placement. So bear in mind that you should just check that as well. So yeah, I was quite pleasantly surprised, and there were a lot of placements in different fields, like Heathrow, but then private companies, recruitment firms, different things like that. So yeah, I started applying. I went for a CV check with the careers team. I spoke to someone who looks after the placements for psychology specifically. So it was really good because she could give me insight on people who were on placement last year and kind of the companies to look for. Because some of them don't even advertise online that they're hiring. You kind of know by word of mouth. So that's always really good as well when you can speak to someone. So yeah, and then it was about January time that I kind of had sent off my applications. Bear in mind, I had sent about 30 applications, I think, to different places. And then I got a call back, and it was just a telephone interview, which the person who I spoke to during my CV check had warned me about, that they might just call you up and do like a brief 5-minute interview, kind of unexpected. So just bear in mind that. Which was a really good tip because they did. And then they called me in. I went down to London for their assessment centre, and it was a whole day down in London, and it was mainly team working tasks. There were written tasks. There were a lot of role play tasks as well. So you kind of just had to get stuck into it and do it. And it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Again, I knew what to expect, so I didn't find it as daunting, I think, as if I didn't do those kind of career workshops or CV check appointments or the mock interviews. So yeah, I did my placement. I ended up getting a role as a recruitment consultant with Hayes Recruitment, which is a recruitment agency. I worked specifically within the prisons and estates team. So it was very interesting, blue collar workers. I really enjoyed my placement. It was different every day. It was unexpected. It was challenging at times. Also forgot to mention that it was in London. So I moved from Loughborough to London. I really loved the experience. However, I now know that recruitment is not something I want to go into. So even though it's not somewhere where I'd consider going back as a graduate role, I think it was such an amazing experience because you got to test drive a career. And I don't know, a lot of graduate programs are 2 years long or are kind of a year if they do. So I'm really lucky that I got to experience that. And I was like, okay, I like this aspect of the job, but I really don't like this aspect, or I couldn't really do this aspect and I don't like it. So I think it's really good, as Rob was saying, to test drive. In terms of kind of day to day, it was 9 to 5 working hours. It was great. There was a lot of social events, which most placements did, in London at least. I lived with 3 other people on placement, and we all had different placements in different companies. And we were all from Loughborough, actually, from the same halls. So that was really fun as well. It was nice to be able to kind of see other placement students in different industries. One was within the airline industry, one was within banking. So it was a really good experience. And I think the placement year itself was so beneficial because you learn what work is like in the real world. I didn't work before this previously, so I didn't know what corporate work life was. I now have a better idea. I'm now a lot more confident when even emailing someone. I remember before that, I used to hate emailing people. I always find it a bit nerve-wracking, whereas now, I've done it so much at my workplace that it's given me so much confidence there as well. So yeah, I definitely say, even though it's not the career that I want to go down, it was 100% beneficial, and I would 100% do it again.
That's so nice to hear, and I think even I've learned something from today. So so thank you, Nushka. That's really nice, and it's really handy actually to have your classmates or your hallmates in London with you. You can experience another city, and you don't have the awkwardness of getting to know new people. So that sounds like it worked out really well for you. Thank you. So just moving on, I think the placement year is a huge advantage to students, particularly when it comes to the career. There are a couple of other things we were going to just discuss with you today, and that's kind of what employers are kind of looking at. So these are kind of the buzzwords. These are the kind of research that's been done about what employers need to do. So you look at some of these words and you'll think, wow, I'm not sure what, as an undergraduate student, this sounds a bit more adult and a bit complex for me. But I think really, as the world's changing and as things are becoming more competitive, the idea of negotiation in everything we do is really important. Looking at people management, looking at the kind of complex problem solving. A lot of these things are things that we come across in a day-to-day life, but we're not perhaps aware of what it actually is. So these are the kind of skills that employers have fed back to us that they need, and we're able to then help our students in turn to identify those skills, and they can come out in interviews and on the placements and in jobs as well. So I just thought I'd put that up there because it's something that we've had feedback from industry that these are the areas that you'd need to consider over the coming years. The next thing to mention is the careers fair. Now we offer one of the UK's largest careers fairs. It is done usually in the October time when students have just arrived on campus. Students coming this year will have a slightly different experience with COVID in mind. We're doing a series of smaller activities and online activities for a week-long version because we obviously have to respect social distancing. And the reason why this is also happening, you can see there's a number of different employers. We welcome 200 plus companies to these fairs every year, and we have 6,000 of our students attend. So we need to kind of change the way we work at the moment. But we are expecting when the spring term hits, then we'll go back to our usual face-to-face recruitment activities as well. So Nushka, when you were a student, did you attend these fairs? Did you find them useful? Any feedback on attending the careers fairs?
Yeah, I attended them actually in my first year as well, and my second year, just because I wanted to have a look and see what it kind of was all about. I found them really helpful because you got to talk to recruitment. Usually the employers that they send out are within the recruitment team, so you actually got to talk to recruiters. And yeah, a lot of them gave a lot of good advice in terms of applying, their kind of recruitment process as well, because it really varies from company to company. So some will do assessment centres, some will have online tests, some will have psychometric testing. So they usually explain it to you there, and then you kind of have a better idea of what to expect when you do apply. So I think it was definitely helpful.
Perfect, thank you. And also for certain subjects and departments, they have their own smaller scale fairs as well that's relevant to you. And I know, Nushka, you mentioned that you were able to speak to somebody who was specifically helping you for psychology. So that will be the same for other subject areas as well. And some nice feedback we've had from some household names there that we've had feedback from employers who regularly attend these events with us. So kind of moving on slightly, and this is something that a lot of students don't even think would be useful and perhaps discount it. But for other students, helping your financial experience in the UK, having a bit of pocket money, getting that experience is really, really useful. So many, many years ago when I was at university, I was a student ambassador, for example. That was a part-time job. And I know now many universities have this scheme. So they are representatives of the university in a paid job for visitors onto campus and things like that. Nushka, you're also an ambassador. So would you be able to perhaps share a bit of experience in terms of what you do as an ambassador, how it fits around your studies, and whether you enjoy it? I'm hoping that you say yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, if you are okay to just...
Enjoy it. Yeah, so I joined the Student Ambassador Scheme in my first year. I love it. You get to do campus tours. That's kind of mainly the work that I've signed up to. How it works is there are different events that you can be asked to join and see if you have available. We've got a whole system going on where you can say when you are available as well, but it really fits into a time that works for you. So say I've got a week where I've got all my assignments due, tests here and there, and I don't want to work, that's fine. It's not a big deal. You just don't pick a shift. So how it works is you sign up to a shift and you kind of accept a shift. So it's really good that way because it does allow you to do that, and there's no kind of deductions or repercussions for it. It's as and when you are available and free. So yeah, I did campus tours. I did with prospective students. I did it with some international students. We did a few workshops as well. We've done open days. But yeah, it's really nice because you get to meet other students, other student ambassadors from different degrees that you might not have necessarily came across. But you also get to interact with students who are thinking about coming to university, some of their parents. And I always find it interesting to see what questions they've got to ask as a student from Loughborough. So yeah, no, I think it's a really good scheme, and it's so flexible because it's not like a rota system where you have set amount of hours for a set week.
Thank you very much, Nushka. I think we really value our student ambassadors. I mean, events like this, it's really good to have your insight in. In terms of other opportunities, perhaps off campus, the town of Loughborough, and the same goes for many city and town and village-based universities, there are opportunities to work in shops, in restaurants, cinemas, supermarkets. So again, sometimes just be mindful that they normally expect you to work a certain amount of hours, and whilst they would know you're a student, they'd be perhaps less flexible, I suppose, in some cases around shifts, whereas working for the university tends to have a little bit more flexibility there as well. Some jobs are seasonal. So for example, our Christmas and Easter period, sometimes some of the shops are open a little bit later on. So there may be perhaps where you'd work for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and then you would find other employment. So there are a number of options there, but I think hopefully that will show you that can not only support your living costs, it can give you a little bit of experience, a little bit of confidence that will help you when you come to apply for internships and jobs in the future. And for a lot of our students, when they're applying for part-time jobs, it is the first time they've ever applied for the job. So even that is a good experience in itself. It's a good life skill. So again, just talking about some of our different fairs, different online support there as well. So on the left-hand side, it just shows you the different kind of support that's available. This is an example of what we offer at Loughborough. So the different supports, preparing for employment, immigration advice, finding that graduate job, finding a job overseas as well, which is certainly something that's a little bit more tricky. So we have that support, we have that resource, and of course you can book appointments to talk about that a little bit further on. And the kind of events that we do, as you mentioned, we have a lot of drop-in sessions, a lot of different fairs, we have different sports events. So events specifically to those wanting to go into a career in sport, career in science, a career in engineering, for example. And those who are in their final year who are perhaps in even more need of that support because they don't have any additional time to do that, because the world of work is just around the corner. So this just gives you a little bit of example of the different resources that you can expect. And these are just some of our perhaps more familiar companies that we work with on a regular basis, who regularly attend our fairs and provide placements and jobs to students. Just to kind of finish on the employability side, as you may know, the UK government has announced a new graduate visa route, which is known commonly as the post-study work visa. That is being introduced next summer. So if you're looking to study at a university next year or even this year, you will benefit from this scheme. So what that means that you can apply from the UK when you've passed your degree for a 2-year extension for your visa to find internships, jobs, even part-time work for 2 years without the need for a sponsorship. So that company doesn't have to sponsor you. You would just apply to those jobs, and it allows you to be a lot more flexible with the employability. So that is something that is introduced. It's making the UK quite attractive for a number of students. So even if you are not thinking you want to work in the UK, but like Nushka, you do a placement and then you're really interested in perhaps finding out more or getting another year or two of experience, that could be something that's a benefit to you now. So it's a new scheme and something that's that we're very, very excited to get involved in. So just kind of moving on, what we wanted to kind of talk about just briefly is where we are. So some of you will be interested in the UK and in where different universities are located. So we're Loughborough. We're in a market town in between Leicester and Nottingham. We're an hour and a half from London. We have one of the largest campuses in the UK. So we've got very, very good options for not only the support, but for social activities in sports, in societies, in different hobbies. We have lots of volunteering academies and charity work that we do. Every year we raise over £1 million for charities as well. So it's a really good thing, a really rewarding thing to be involved in. But the campus life, I think, is something that is very, very attractive to students as well. Everything being in one place, from the halls of residence to the library to your academic studies. And we have a free bus that goes across the campus as well. On the very rare occasion that it rains in the UK, I have to be honest, it rains more than occasionally, but yeah, it's certainly a very flexible option where you don't necessarily need to budget for transport costs at the university. It's a short walk into the town of Loughborough within 10 minutes. These are kind of the subjects that we offer. And just coming back to the employability and the internships, all of these courses offer internships, which would make them a 4-year degree. So you would study for 2 years initially, then you take a study abroad or an internship year, then you come back and complete the final year. And for courses that have an integrated master's degree, MEng or MSci or MArch, they will be a 5-year degree with internship or 4-year without. But we're really pushing that internship. So definitely go for an internship if you can. So just to kind of summarize, we're a top 10 UK university. We have some very good UK rankings, but perhaps more globally, we're more famous for sports, art and design and media. We have scholarships that are automatically considered when you apply to the UK, to Loughborough. It's a very affordable and safe place to study. And again, we have this support from day one. And also, when you graduate from the university, our Careers Network team provide 3 years of postgraduate support. So it will cover you throughout your post-study work 2 years. And even if you go away from the UK and then decide to come back, you'll still have the support with finding jobs. So we provide 3 years of support throughout your degree, after your degree. So I think it's a very nice thing to have. We're also very famous for the student experience. So I think offering part-time jobs, offering ambassador scheme, getting involved in clubs and societies, really putting our students first. I think that's where the Loughborough University would stand out in terms of the experience as well. So Nushka, just before we kind of conclude the session, would you be able to just maybe highlight a couple of really good experiences that you've had so far? So the main things that you would look back and really would look back fondly of your time studying at the university, and that could be absolutely anything.
I think I'll start with most recently. Obviously, with COVID, I had to stop my placement quite early. It was quite sudden. I think it was within the span of a week that I decided that I needed to come home. My country was shutting its borders and telling their citizens to come home. And yeah, I literally had a week, maybe about a day to decide. And I remember being really panicked because obviously it was completely out of the blue. You're usually meant to give notice to a company, and because our placement is accredited and you get a diploma of professional studies, which is also a really good thing about a placement. Because it was accredited, I was a bit concerned of that. And all I did was call one person within the career support team, and they were so incredible. It was so easy. The decision was like this after that, because they were like, don't worry, you get home, we'll sort it out. There will be some leeway. And then even after, they kept me constantly updated with what they were doing in terms of the early release from my placement. They liaised with my placement office, with the placement team in Hayes. They were so incredibly helpful, and I didn't realize the amount of support I had access to until I really needed it, and I was really finding myself in a pickle. So I think that till this day is probably the best experience I've had, because it was so simple in a time where I was so panicked and it was just crazy and nothing was kind of going my way or right. It really put my mind at ease. And then even after that, they checked in that I, managed to find a flight home, that I got home safe. So it wasn't just a tick off the list, it was actually someone on the other end genuinely concerned. In terms of kind of on campus and my on campus life, I've really enjoyed volunteering. So that's another thing that the university offers. I'm not massively into sports. I will watch it, but I'm not best at playing it. So I did a lot of volunteering on my first and second year, and I got to lead a project, which meant I got to kind of develop the ideas for it. And that was a weekly project at the nursery on campus as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed the kind of experiences that I had and the opportunities I had in first and second year, especially on campus. I think the campus is great as well. It's massive, and if you're ever missing kind of city life, it's literally a train journey away down to London, 10 minutes to Leicester, 10 minutes to Nottingham. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, you live in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, no, it's an amazing campus. And then if I really am missing a city, which I think I only went to Leicester once or twice, and Nottingham, then you can just hop on a train and go 10 minutes and you'll be in a massive city. So yeah.
That's lovely. Thank you. I think you've highlighted some really key points there, but I think for one, the UK is pretty small compared to a lot of larger countries across Southeast Asia. So when you are getting to the university, traveling around, the transport links are excellent. So it's not too far, as you've said, to be able to go to nearby cities and to visit London. And we have an international airport not too far from the campus, which has European flights and flights across the UK as well. So you can visit Scotland quite easily. So I think that again is part of the student experience, which is really, really useful. At this point, we would welcome any further questions via the chat box or Q&A. I know we've had a couple of questions so far on scholarship. So for those of you who have not seen it, when you apply to Loughborough, we will look at your predicted grades, and if your predicted grades are in line with our scholarship requirements, which is generally 3 A's at A level or 37 points in the IB, normally with 666 at higher level, or the equivalent for your country, we would assess you automatically for a 25% scholarship. There is a small amount of courses within one of our engineering faculties that have recurring scholarships. So if you are performing well in the first and second year, that scholarship may continue on. And for those of you who are playing quite high level sports, normally national level for your age group in certain sports, we have competitive sports scholarships available as well. So you would normally need to register with the Loughborough Sports team and talk to the scholarship manager about your eligibility, but registering with those sports, if you are active and very keen on that is something that's, again, quite a popular option if you do want to play sports. So is there anything you would like to know? Anything further we could cover?
So we've just had a question in. Someone's asked, how would you describe the workload? Nushka, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I think it depends obviously on the degree that you're doing and how many contact hours that you have at university. From personal experience, after doing my final year here in Malaysia of college, I'd say it's quite similar to your A levels, if not a little bit less, just because you take a lot of control of your learning. So no one's telling you to hand in homework. You just get the assignment, you know the test date, and you kind of work towards that. So it's really how you manage your own study, which I think is really good because I personally benefit from it. I tend to kind of do it as I go in smaller chunks, but I know some people, rather just kind of chunk it all towards the test date or their assignment date, which if that works, that works. But yeah, I think it's how you manage it. I don't think it's overwhelming. I've never been like, oh my God, I just have too much work to deal with. You just have to really know yourself and know how you study, know what works best for you.
Yeah, that's really helpful. So I was a student at Loughborough as well, a few years ago now, but I studied history and geography, and I'd really second what Nishka said. Each course will have a minimum of 12 hours of teaching in the first year. It's a lot higher for courses such as engineering, where there's a lot more practical work, and then there will be kind of independent work on top of that as well. So that is what Nishka was saying about when you choose to do your independent work. You could see it as a full-time job and do it 9 till 5 every day and have your evenings and weekends free, or some students are known for those all-nighters in the library as well. We had another question about what are popular clubs and activities. At Loughborough, we have over 120 different societies for students to join. We've got lots of different sports clubs, we've got volunteering opportunities, we've got charity work, all sorts of things to get involved with as well. So really it's what you're interested in doing. There's generally an opportunity for that. And if you have a hobby that we haven't done before, if you can find, I think it's 8 friends, you can set up your own society. So yeah, lots of different things to get involved in depending what you're interested in.
Any final questions? We've got a few minutes left before we need to wrap up the session today, but please do let us know either via the Q&A or chat box. It'd be really nice to hear from you.
So we had another question come in for the sports teams. Is it true that only the first team can compete in bucks? No, that's not true. So we have different divisions for different sports which can compete in bucks as well. So for rugby, I think we have 5 competitive teams. The highest team, we're taking rugby as an example, play in a local league, and then we have our bucks teams as well.
I think alongside that, certain sports actually play at a professional level. So for example, the MCCU in cricket, they make up a lot of students who go on to play for counties and end up playing for the country. Our Loughborough football team has recently been involved in an FA Cup qualifying match. So there is a lot that you can do at whatever level. But on the other side of it, you can learn to swim. You can try a society that you've not even thought about or thought existed. I know the Harry Potter and Quidditch Society gets a number of additional members every year, so that's something to definitely to focus on. Anushka, I'm gonna pick on you again. I'm afraid here. How active would you say our Students' Union is in terms of the events they have on and support and things like that?
I think there's something happening almost every day, at least when I was in first and second year. I know on Mondays they used to do like art workshops. I did one. I'm not talented at art, but they have that. You don't have to be talented at art as well. You can just go for the experience. That was really good. They did nights out. Obviously, I don't know what the changes will be now. I'm sure there will be things. They used to get puppies into the Students' Union near exam time that you can go and pet. That's a personal favourite. When it comes to nearing exams, I always look out for that. I think they've even done movies around the Students' Union on like a grass patch. So yeah, they're definitely really active, and they definitely kind of cater towards every season. So in the summer, they'll do kind of summer activities, and it kind of goes like that. So yeah, they are very active. They always have events going on.
Perfect. We're running out of time. We've got 2 last questions, and then I think we'll have to conclude the session. The first is about eligibility. That's a difficult word to say for me, for scholarships. So basically, we would look at your profile. And for example, for our business and economics school, if your predicted grades are closer, reasonably close to our requirements, we'll make you the offer, but you would need to still get the 37 points. Other schools may be a little bit more strict, depending on the subject. So when you apply, we will automatically assess you for a scholarship. We also have the part-time jobs are available throughout the town of Loughborough. It can be in Nottingham, could be in Leicester, they're perhaps a little bit further away. I think we have actually answered that question now on the chat function anyway. But most students would go for an on-campus part-time job or something in the town of Loughborough because it's just a lot easier to cope with your studies. And of course, if you require a visa to study with us, you're only permitted to work 20 hours per week. So that's just something to bear in mind. I'd like to thank everybody for attending today. It's been a really, really good session. Nushka, you've been fantastic in sharing your experience. Thank you so much. Thank you to Charlotte and Caroline for helping with the questions, and for Kielfo for all of the events that we've been able to attend so far. So thank you so much, everybody. We have listed our contact details and links to get in touch with us, open days, registering for updates. You'd be most welcome to join us and join our Loughborough family in the future. And thank you so much for everything for today. Okay, well, take care, stay safe, and we hope to see you on campus soon.